Otosaka Yukon's supernatural power enables him to think of people and become them. He uses the power to deal with people he dislikes and cheat his way into a top high school. Michon approaches Otosaka, but he is not interested in her and lies that he needs to study. He is interested in Yumi-chan, so he possesses a truck driver and Michon to act as a savior to Yumi to make her fall in love with him. His plan begins to work and she begins to take an interest in him. Umura, the student council president, begins to suspect Otosaka's perfect scores in his examinations and asks him to retake a test to prove his innocence. Tomori, the student council president of Star Ocean Academy, who has been monitoring Otosaka, approaches him and challenges him to use his superpowers to cheat. Otosaka, overwhelmed by this discovery, claims it was untrue and runs away. Otosaka is met by Takaju, who has the power to move extremely fast, and Tomori asks Otosaka to transfer to their school so that they can help him manage his powers. He is invited to join the student council to help them accomplish their mission, stopping people who abuse their power. Ayumi, Otosaka's sister, discusses their mother, and he asks her not to mention her again, and says she feels there is another person who is supposed to be a part of their family. Takaju and Tomori come around to assist them to move into their new place. Later that night, Otosaka dreams of someone else being there with himself and Ayumi, but cannot see the face. Otosaka resumes his first day of school and is told by Tomori that his powers will also be needed to help save people with superpowers before they get caught by other people who will use them for lab rats. They promise to pay him a stipend for his service. Takaju uses his powers to buy sandwiches for himself and Otosaka. Otosaka analyzes why Tomori has no friends and how she became lonely. With the help of the collaborator, who has a psychic photography, they head to Nunba High School to save the person with superpowers, Udu. Udu uses his powers to see people naked and is warned to change his ways before his powers leave him. Tomori and Otosaka go to visit her brother, Kazuki. She reminisces on her childhood, how they discovered they had superpowers, and how he was taken and experimented on until he never recognized her again. She was also tested on and eventually ran away after a year. She finally met someone she could trust, and he cared for his brother too. Ayumi loves watching the comet and makes it her routine every night. Ayumi makes omelet rice again for Otosaka, and he tries to refuse it, but has to take it. On getting to school, Takaju gets him curry rice, which he likes. The collaborator tells them about a person with a superpower that combines channeling the dead and pyrokinesis. They head to an alley to look for her, but couldn't find her, and figured someone had chased her after seeing two people's footprints on the floor. They find a suspicious person and go after him, and he confesses that Taiyu TV asked him to look for Nishimori Yusa. They eventually find her in a club. Tomori discusses with her, and she says doctors said she might have multiple personalities because she often sleeps and wakes up in another place. Yusa gets angry when Tomori talks with her friends, and she channels Misa, her dead sister, who took over her body and used her power, pyrokinesis. Taiyu TV is looking for Yusa-san because she took someone's phone by mistake but discovered some shady dealings on it. Misa-san said she would destroy the TV station, but Tomori discouraged her and says it would put Yusa in trouble. Tomori thinks this will help her get revenge instead. During the channeling, Yusa-san is unconscious of all that happens. They help her get her revenge, and Tomori asks her to transfer to their school. Shao confesses he liked Misa and feels responsible for her death because they were together when she died. Yusarin resumes to Star Ocean Academy, and the students go wild about it. Yusarin becomes a part of the student council, and collaborator discovers a person with telekinesis, and Yusarin, unaware of her powers, is impressed by it. Tomori talks about a baseball pitcher she had been monitoring for a while who grips the ball wrongly and guesses he's the one. So they head to Kanai Academy to stop him from using his powers to cheat. They talk to Arifumi out of using his powers to cheat because the powers will not be with him till the time he becomes a pro. He asks Tomori to stay out of his business, but they agree to settle it with a baseball match between both schools, and whoever wins has the final say on the matter. The student council of Star Ocean joins the baseball team so that they can use their powers to win the game, and they won. They win the match against Kanai Academy. Arifumi confesses that he was trying to use his power to help his friend so that he could make it to where the scouts would see him. He agreed to stop using his powers and encourage his friend from the sidelines. Some girls at school beat up Tomori. The collaborator collaborator discovers another person with a superpower for levitation. They go on a trip to find the person, and while they go shopping for the journey, Yusarin and Takaju say to Tomori and Otosaka they would make a good couple. They set up for the stakeout to catch the person. Tomori and Otosaka bond well on the trip, and she shares Zind music with Otosaka and gives him her music player. While listening to the music, Otosaka sleeps off and dreams of that third person his sister spoke about again. After camping for 2 days, the person who uses the power to levitate shows up, and Tomori confronts him. Tomori and the person get into a disagreement, and he uses his power out of anger. Eventually they caught him, and he was surprised to see other people with powers because he thought he was the only one. Tomori encourages him to stop using his powers so that he does not harm himself in the process, and he agrees to stop using it. For the first time, Ayumi cooks without pizza sauce, and Otosaka is happy and encourages her to stop cooking with it. Ayumi gets sick, and Otosaka stays home to take care of her. Ayumi's sickness prevented her from going to school. The collaborator discovers a new person with the power to collapse, make things fall apart. The person with the power is found at the school's apartment, and they suspect it to be Ayumi because she is the only one not in school, but in bed because of her illness. After school, Otosaka, Yusarin, and Tomari go to see Ayumi. On getting home, Otosaka met Ayumi's classmates. While they left, one of them looked at Otosaka somehow. Yusarin and Tomari greeted Ayumi, and they had dinner together. Ayumi teases Tomori and Otosaka on how they will make a great couple. Tomori tells Otosaka to ask Ayumi about the dream she had in case it will help them solve their mystery. Ayumi's dream is centered around things breaking and the ground opening. Otosaka asks Ayumi to stay at home, but she sneaks off to school. The student council rushes to Ayumi's school to ensure nothing happens to her. At school, Konishi-san confronts Ayumi because of Okaiwa-kun's interest in her. Konishi brings a blade to harm Ayumi, and while she tries to free herself from Konishi, she screams and the building collapses. Otosaka tries to look for Ayumi amidst the tumbled rocks, and a wall collapses on him. Otosaka was taken to the hospital, and when he woke, he heard of Ayumi's death. After the death of Ayumi, Otosaka shuts his friends out. Chiara Nagi tries to bring Otosaka out of his terrible state so that his heart will not wilt. Otosaka leaves the school and goes as far as the collaborator cannot locate him. Otosaka picks a fight with a group of boys over video games and causes trouble everywhere he goes. Unknown to him, Tomori has been with him all along, but showed herself when he was about to start smoking. She said she would not leave him alone until he recovered. Tomori prepares omelet rice for him, like Ayumi also does. She asks him to return to the student council, and he agrees. Yusarin welcomed Otosaka with her magic charm. The student council watched Yusarin's latest TV together in an exclusive screening. The student council hung out together, and Tomori got one person a Zind concert ticket. Otosaka agrees to go with her. Otosaka meets Sala Shane, Zind's vocalist, and she asks him to take her to Soba Place to get Hiroshima style, and they eat dinner together. After dinner, she asks him about something bad that happened to him recently, and she offers to burn incense for Ayumi. Sala becomes friends with Otosaka, and they talk about how she lost her sight and family through her selfish ways. Otosaka tries to help Tomori's brother to snap back to reality by taking Sala to him. Sala sang for Kazuki, and she was able to get his attention and make him talk. Tomori and Otosaka meet up to attend Zind's concert together. During the show, Otosaka has a strange feeling and flashes of memory, and he faints. While unconscious, he dreams of a parallel world where he and his siblings are at a facility where they were tested for their superpowers. His brother, Shun, was locked up for having a disruptive power, a space-time movement. He tries to hide his real powers so he does not get locked up like his brother. Kumagami approaches Yu that he found someone with telepathy that he can possess to absorb his powers. Ayumi is taken away for the forcible removal of her powers, Collapse, which was successful, till she was kept away because her powers could destroy everywhere. Yu tapped into his real powers, plundering of powers, to save his sister and his brother. Otosaka wakes up from the hospital. After after the dream and is met by the collaborator, who happens to be Kumagami, who promised to explain everything he does not understand to him, and, with the powers of his brother, go back to save his sister. Kumagami takes Otosaka to his brother, where he realizes that his memory was wiped, and that is why he cannot remember his brother. Shunsuk narrates how he met Kumagami and the rest of the people who had superpowers and planned to change the world together, but were soon arrested by the police and known by researchers. He time-leapt to raise money to build an organization that was unopposable. He realized that his eyesight got worse every time he used his powers. Through hard work, a school was founded, and they created one to save people like them. He asked Meidu Murray to erase Otosaka and Ayumi's memory of him so they could live their lives. Otosaka absorbs Shun's powers and goes back in time to save Ayumi after absorbing her powers with the help of Tomori and the student council. Ayumi is taken to Shun, where she is told all that happened. Shun asks Otosaka to stay with them at the facility till his powers disappear because it is dangerous for him to be outside. Otosaka learns of the vaccine they are creating in the facility to stop young people from receiving supernatural powers before another comet, Charlotte, passes on Earth again. Ayumi and Otosaka are introduced to the gang and get to know each other well. Kumagami discovers someone with a superpower. While on his way to the student council, Furuki, his driver, tells him he needs to take him somewhere else because his family was threatened. Kumagami was beaten up and tied down by his abductors and refused to give any information till he was injected, and they got all the information from him. Tomori and Kumagami are negotiated in place of Otosaka Yu. Furuki takes Yu to the foreigners, where his family is freed. Yu had his eyes slashed and was unable to use his powers and collapsed the building. Kumagami died, with irons buried in his back. Yu woke up and heard that Tomori was fine, but Kumagami had died. Takaju and Yusarin brought food for Yu while he was in recovery. Yu encouraged Yusarin to visit her parents, and Misa introduced herself to them too. Ayumi made her special comet rice for Yu's 16th birthday. Shun says that terrorist groups will soon be in Japan and is worried about everyone. Tomori tells Yu that she believes his powers to steal other people's powers will be able to save them all, but the problem is that he might not be the same person after consuming so much power, but Yu decides that he will do it. Yu confesses his feelings to Tomori, and she says she will wait for him to consume everyone's power, and then they can be a couple if he comes back whole. Yu begins his mission to get all the powers in the world with Tomori and gets his brother's blessing to go on and get people's powers so that they can make them feel safe. Yu begins his search for people with powers and moves from one country to another, removing their powers. While doing this, he discovers people whose powers are yet to manifest. He manifests them just so he can plunder them. Yu's powers overwhelm him in Cuba, and he starts to misbehave, hurt people, and lose his memories, even of who Tomori was. Across the world, he is called the Reaper for absorbing power out of people. In Beijing, a little girl saves Yu from being captured by a man who is after the Reaper. Shun and the gang save Yu from the man and reunites him with everybody. When he returns, he doesn't remember anything, but is reminded by Tomori, his girlfriend. For more recaps like this, click the next video. You wouldn't want to miss this story.